on Sports! All right. We're getting a little heat wave here in Pennsylvania. I don't know how it's going out there, Gare, but welcome to another night of Bitter Men on Sports. I'm here tonight with Gary, the Mastodon Kin, Chris, the Banana Slug Fletcher, and I am Dave, the Blue Hose Finoli.
Blue Hose Finoli. There you go.
Good evening.
Good evening, Blue Hose.
Oh, those are actual nicknames.
Beautiful haircut you have tonight. I just have to.
Yeah, I got the college I just got it too. I got the college basketball look going.
Ooh, it's a beautiful.
Yeah, you are the Fort Wayne Mastodon, Fort Wayne University or College. You, of course, UC Santa Cruz Banana Slug, and apparently Presbyterian College was named the Blue Hose.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. They do have uniforms. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. It's better than my favorite.
Where is Presbyterian College? In Kentucky or someplace? Where the heck is it? Kentucky?
Where is it? Presbyterian? Yeah. I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
There are Presbyterians everywhere. It can be anywhere.
Yeah.
But the greatest name of Centenary College is called the Ladies and Gentlemen. That is their official name. The Ladies and Gentlemen.
Centenary, where Parrish went?
Right here from an NCAA.com. Yeah, Centenary, that's where he went.
That's exactly. Where Parrish went, yeah.
He's part of the Ladies and Gentlemen. Oh, man. Well, I got to go to the big house this week.
I was going to ask, did you sing?
I have a video of my first time hearing live the Michigan band play Hail to the Victors. It was a goosebump moment. What a campus. Got to see all the great facilities, the Yost ice rink, which is, I think, 80 or 90 years old, classic Michigan hockey there. Great baseball stadium. They had the Chrysler Arena open, so we got a chance to tour that. Being in a stadium with 111,000 people is a rare experience. We had seats 1 through 4, which I was excited about till I figured out that one row runs into another with one long, big-ass bench. So seat 1 was actually the middle of rows. Yes. So the excitement of having that turned into a piss-off event because it's right where you don't want to be, in the middle of a long-ass row.
Yeah. But these tickets aren't that available, so you almost can't fight too much.
No, it was a great experience. It was, always wanted to go there. The first thing we found was the Bo statue, my hero. Bo Schembechler has a big statue in front of Schembechler Hall. Mm-hmm. You just automatically touch something when you like your arm's around it. Apparently my arm was around Bo's ass, and I took a lot of crap for that. I didn't do it on purpose, but is not a smack in the ass a good sports tradition?
I hope you bought him dinner afterwards.
We did. But the best part of the stadium, the one part you worry about is having some drinks. You're in 111,000 seat stadium, and you got to stand in line to go to the bathroom, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's the way it was upstairs. But they had a downstairs one. It was the most incredible engineering feat I've ever seen. It had like little serpentine rows and layers, and you never stood in line to go to the bathroom, even in the busiest time that you would think. It was a engineering marvel. They should share that with other places.
Yeah, maybe. In all seriousness, maybe.
I'm telling you, because it was great, and they had food trucks right along the line. They had your traditional catering things at the stands, concession things, but they also had this lineup of different food trucks that I've never seen in a stadium before, and I give it an A+. The only thing was you get 111,000 people in a stadium by making the rows very close to each other.
Yeah.
So who's ever knee were.
Is that the biggest crowd you've ever been in for a sporting event?
By far. It's my first 100,000. Because when I went to Penn State, it was like a 70,000 facility in the 70s. And I mean, it filled up, even though it was supposed to be a dog game, which turned out to be a fantastic game.
Yeah.
There was not a seat open. There was 111,000 strong. And the most important thing at the beginning of the game, before they had the kickoff, first thing they put up was a slippery rock score in tradition, which you thought that was only a 1970s thing.
Yeah, that's good.
It goes strong. It's the first thing they put up. It was kind of cool. They beat Wayne State 60-37.
It is that.
I didn't see that.
But, as much as we love baseball, to me, college basketball or college football is the thing I love the most. Just the atmosphere. Hearing "Hail to the Victor" live for the first time after just loving that song for how many years, it was definitely a goosebump moment. If I could figure out this stupid thing.
That's an experience that none of us had at Duquesne, unfortunately. That big time football.
No, we had the experience of stripping feathers off a mascot, but that was our
international incident.
No, you don't get that. You don't get that. I've had season tickets to Pitt game for most of the last couple decades, and you don't get that experience there at all. It's nice when you want to get up to go to the bathroom, when you want to get up to get something to eat because nobody's there, but there's just something about being in that kind of experience that makes it special. And that's what we'll have coming up this Saturday at noon with Pitt-Penn State. Nice playing Penn State. I don't get as wired about it as others. Yeah, I certainly have had my issues with the fan base wanting to memorialize a guy who, certainly in my eyes, allowed child rape on his campus by turning a deaf ear. And that's just something I've never been able to certainly shake as they have. And when people want to name a stadium after him, several tens of thousands, it just gets up my craw. So that's probably why the biggest problem I have with that. But regardless, it's a minority of the fans. Most just want to get on with it. Most understand what went on. So, I don't hold it against the Penn State faithful per se, but it's a series that's exciting. But really, if you look at the history of it, it was exciting from 1975 through 1990. The rest of it, the team has dominated one way or the other over the course of it. And,
very good teams in that period. Yeah, both sides.
Yeah. So with the talents difference, that should, my prediction is Penn State will win by 2 touchdowns. And that's a hopeful prediction. But there are other true college. If you look at the list of the great college rivalries, they're great, but it's great mostly from a regional standpoint. It's not something the country takes hold of. In looking at a list of the top rivalry games, the Iron Bowl, to me, it takes hold right now because Auburn and Alabama are very successful teams. I'm not sure that's anything more than a regional rivalry for the most part. To me, Ohio State, Michigan, again, maybe that's because I'm a Michigan fan, but that is always something that since Bo and Woody has taken the nation every time they watch it. There is no better game than Army-Navy. It's a bucket list game that I think we all would love going to. Red River Showdown, I think that's one that since the teams are generally on a national level year in and year out, Oklahoma and Texas, certainly something that people can get excited about. They list number 5, the game Harvard-Yale. Again, has a good history, but do you guys even know when it's on?
It usually is that big weekend, but nobody pays one bit of attention to it anymore.
Right. The rest of them, in my eyes, come. Notre Dame, USC is one you can put on. For me, UCLA, USC has been a game that while Western has hit a national level because of the great teams that both schools have produced over the years. The Palmetto Bowl. between Clemson and South Carolina. South Carolina is rarely good. I'm not quite sure why that garners high up on it. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
You got to like it just for that name.
Exactly. I think that takes it on. Penn State Pitt is listed as 10. I don't know how you list it as 10, really, with the just minimal times these guys have played. It's a fun game. The backyard brawl will be fun. But out of conference, the games mean nothing. But it would be nice if you could depend on it year in, year out. I don't know if I go as far as some of the legislatures who want to push to have both schools play the game or not give them money. I think that kind of defeats the purpose of why they're giving them money. They're giving them money to educate our kids, not to play a friggin' football game.
Right.
But every area, and that's the great thing about it, every area has their localized rival. I mean, for us, it's our school, it's Duquesne Robert Morris, even though, not played on a national level. I get kind of jazzed up about that every year. And the way they beat us in basketball, it's nice to give them a nice little whack in football as we have a few years. And usually, in the past at least, not usually, but in the past, that game has meant something for the NEC title too. So it's nice having those there. But it's exciting for the region. This week is exciting. We all know people that have gone to Penn State. It's nice to get those little digs in there. If you're a Pitt fan, you're not a James Franklin fan. He's the kind of coach, maybe you want on your side because he's going to run up the score. But, if he's not coaching your team, I have no use for him. He's not the kind of guy, I really couldn't root for no matter where he was. But, even though, it's the kind of things that can rile up a team that's a 17-point underdog like the Panthers. Penn State has had two bad opponents put in front of them. So perhaps their success early on has been a bit of a facade. Pitt's defense has played relatively well the first 2 weeks. That was not an easy Ohio team that they defeated. But, so you always hold out the possibility that it's going to happen. And that's a great thing about any school that you go to. That's what makes these rivalries fun. Even though, as I said, there's only 4 or 5 on a national level that everybody really gets pumped up about. We all have them. We all have our rival. We all have the teams that we really get fired up for. And this week is going to be one of those weeks. But to me, nothing matches the intensity and hate. And it's because of hate. You're kind of forced to choose between a Michigan and Ohio State, no matter where you're from, because there's such an intense hate no matter where you go. Now, admittedly, a lot of the hate from what I see is more on the Ohio State end. As we all know Michigan is a superior school to Ohio State. Well, okay, I see what the look at.
It's not the University of Michigan either. So
they're not going to do it.
They're not claiming themselves to be the university in the state of Michigan either.
Yeah. It's just because there are not many, quality universities in Ohio. They have to try to separate that, as opposed to the University of Michigan, which we know is an Ivy League school with a great football program, correct?
Yes, Dave. Yes.
We know Bo was superior to Woody, correct?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
The great Kazoo.
Much nicer guy. Much nicer guy than Woody was.
But it's a great thing. You don't have it really. I mean, you have rivals in college basketball, but because you play them home and away, because you play so many games, they don't have the same meaning that they have in football. With parity in professional football, again, yes, you have the rivalries, but again, to me, it doesn't take the same intensity. Do the Yankees and Red Sox have the same intensity of Army, Navy, of USC? Yeah, you play 18 times a year.
You can't.
Yeah, can't. So to me, this is the most
different sport. Yeah, totally different sport. Yep.
I mean, in the Army Navy thing, such a special game. Guys who are going to go off to defend our country as soon as they're done. guys who hate each other between the 60 minutes, but respect each other and love each other outside of those 60 minutes. Nothing better than the end of that game when they come together. Even you could see that, the respect. I mean, you're a 23-point underdog. You played a very disciplined game against Michigan. By all means, the 111,000 should have been pissed off at that performance, but there was just something about how both teams came together. They came down to the Army end at the end of the game, both teams, to salute the cadet. It was just a special atmosphere that, I mean, even if Army had somehow come away with the victory, it's not a normal thing where the home crowd would have been as pissed. It just was something special to see. And to see that in an Army-Navy game, it makes it unique to the point that you have nothing like that in professional or college sports. The giant cocktail party. Who doesn't want to go there? I don't want to go to the game. Do you want to go to the game? Maybe we'll want to go to the game. But you want to go to the cocktail party. There are pigs there. Got to respect the pigs. Yeah. Lots of sports going on, lots of food. So I just think it's something we celebrate when we get to play our rivals. It's a shame that Pitt doesn't really get a rival year in and year out. Tough to really come up with one there. I know Syracuse is their selected rival, and that's okay. They certainly have a good history with them, but other than that, I'd probably get more pissed losing to North Carolina than anything else, but that's more stemmed from, my dislike of their basketball program. And it's not a disrespect thing. It's a jealousy thing where I'd sure as hell would look at on my team to have that kind of success. But that's why it makes us week special. I mean, as I said, it doesn't irritate me. They don't play year in and year out just because of the way it is. But it'd be nice if it was something you could count on. And it's going to be nice to be able to watch it and hopefully be competitive in it. As I said against Notre Dame last year, could just get me to the fourth quarter, and I'll be happy. Because anything can happen at that point.
Right.
But you were in LA for UCLA, USC. Why don't you talk a little about the experience?
I went to a couple of those games. I remember going to a game at the Coliseum, which was my first entree into the big crowd college football game. I mean, I think I was the last car in the parking lot. It was amazing. I'd never seen anything like it. It was such great energy there. The company I worked for was owned by two USC graduates, so they always made a big deal of that game, and so we always enjoyed that. But that's one. A couple other ones they've come to mind. Florida State, which is really an up-and-coming rivalry. That was sort of like a big brother, little brother thing for many, many years, and then things have changed, and it's now actually a pretty good rivalry.
Yeah.
In terms of Pitt, I really think that the rivalry with West Virginia is better than the rivalry with Penn State. And to me, that is the number one. And, we'll see that again, 2022? Is that the next time they play?
Yeah, they do a home and home then.
Yeah, so that's a great game. It's still one of my great memories was that Pitt team robbing West Virginia of a chance for a national championship. That was a hell of a game.
What a moment.
A couple other ones that come to mind for me are Minnesota-Wisconsin. That game, that series has been probably one of the oldest ones, and I think it's something like 60-8. I mean, that's how close that series is. So that part's kind of cool. You mentioned USC and Notre Dame, and how that whole thing happens pretty interesting. It happened on a train. How that whole thing was happening. Newt Rockne and his wife were traveling after, I think they were playing Nebraska, and they were going somewhere, and they ran into the athletic director at USC, and they got to talking, and apparently Newt Rockne's wife liked to visit on the West Coast, and out of this conversation became that whole rivalry. Happened on a train. Go figure.
It's stuck with us since. That's a great story.
Army Navy still is my number one. It doesn't matter how good either of the teams are. It's just it's a spectacle to see. I think right now the best one is probably Auburn, Alabama. I think that's probably the best rivalry.
I would say.
But there's going to be a new rivalry coming, fellas, and it's sort of off topic, but it's going to be the state of California versus the NCAA. That's going to be an interesting one. I don't know if you guys saw what happened this week, where the state legislature passed a measure that the college athletes would need to be paid.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
they're going to be in direct confrontation with the NCAA. So we'll see what happens with that. It's going to be interesting to watch.
That'll be a Supreme Court battle, I would assume, down the road.
I would think so too. But the merits of that notwithstanding, it's going to be interesting. I think it might change the landscape a little bit. And Michigan Notre Dame's another one, Dave. I mean, that's I don't know, is that a regional one, would you think, or is that more of a national one?
I would think that takes on, anytime Notre Dame's in a rivalry, it kind of takes on national proportion. I would put that on national. It's a shame that they're cut down to, it's not an every year thing now. I know they're just doing this home and home series. I'm not sure if it extends past this year. But that's a classic one. I mean, they're fairly close together. They're within a couple hours of each other, and there's a lot of hate spewed out on that one.
Yeah, the alumni don't like each other very much. Michigan alumni does not like Notre Dame alumni very much. A lot of center around Chicago there. So yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I'm going to show you this. This is rivalrytrophy.com. You can buy any Big Ten rivalry trophy in a little version. You can actually buy it in a life-size version. But
it's a little scary.
This goes to the kids for something to buy me for Christmas.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Early planting an early seed.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Two other ones I think of, one football, one basketball. The football one is Cal Stanford, which is basically the same area, but it's the private school versus the public school. So it's kind of interesting. And it's the one that gave us the band game, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But my favorite basketball one is Duke, North Carolina, because it gets obnoxious. Whenever you have the Duke fans chanting, "You'll work for us. You'll work for us."
Does that include the kids that took the fake classes at Notre Dame or North Carolina?
I'm sure. Oh, man. But you're right. I mean, you don't get the same kind of rivalry in the pros. It just doesn't happen. I mean, maybe there are a few good rivals. The NFL tried to give us one for opening day, and that was kind of a disaster. But college is where it's at, fellas, when it comes to rivalries.
Absolutely. It's. I mean, I still hold hatred towards Dallas and Oakland from the '70s, but it's kind of stupid anymore. We rarely face the Cowboys and rarely face the Raiders, and it's just not the same.
Yeah, well, expansion.
You have some hatred, Gary, don't you?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, not so much of the college. I mean, college sports is just not, back here where I live in the East, at least, it's just not as big of a deal, as it is like out in Western PA or Ohio, or like where Chris, where you were out on the West Coast. I mean, college football back here is kind of a non-factor. So, most of the hate rivalry here is pro football. The hate the Cowboys, the Redskins, and Giants, and it's likewise back. Those cities can't stand Philadelphia. Dallas, hotels in Dallas close when the Eagles travel down there because they don't want the people that crawl out from Iraq here to wreck the hotel. So, but on the college side, I mean, I think the thing that's disappointing the most to me is just, unfortunately, it comes down to money again, just like with college basketball and pro sports with all this expansion. But, you used to really be able to, I think the thing that makes the Michigan-Ohio State one still one of the most special ones is the fact that they play every year. And there's still usually an awful lot on the line. It's rare that both of them aren't competing for that conference championship, or one of them damn near could have knocked the other one out of something big. And I think that really adds to that rivalry. To me, that's probably the top one right now. You could say that about the SEC, and I agree. I think the most talent is probably in the Auburn-Alabama games, but the SEC is sending so many teams to major bowls around New Year's and in the championship series. To me, it's lost its luster a little bit. Whereas Ohio State, Michigan, I guess you could say the same, but it just seems to that one's kind of maintained.
It's the same Saturday every year, and I mean they base the whole schedule and plus the Big Ten championship around it.
Yep. Uniforms are unchanged. Yep, everything's unchanged. It stays the same, which is what makes these rivalries, particularly college football, so good. The one when I was a kid that I really did like the most was the USC UCLA.
Yeah,
it might have been growing up in Nowheresville in central Pennsylvania, but those teams were both really good then. UCLA was clearly behind USC, but UCLA had some good teams too. It's just USC was always just a little bit better. And one-sidedness to me makes a rivalry a little bit more hateful sometimes. And UCLA had a lot of hate for them. They really upset them through that Anthony Davis, Simpson, Anthony Davis, Ricky Bell, Charles White. But boy, they gave some tussles, some high-scoring tussles. And it just seemed to be so far remote. Again, the weather, the LA Coliseum. I used to love that rivalry. That's really lost its luster lately. Not necessarily for good reasons. I mean, UCLA can't get it together, and USC goes in and out of jail every 3 or 4 years. So, I mean, unfortunately, that rivalry to me has lost its luster, but I still like that one.
Two of the best uniforms in college football, though. I think we'd have to agree with that.
I think the best uniforms on the same field in college football to me. Still.
USC, one of my favorite of all time.
Yeah, and I used to love when UCLA wore the blue.
Oh.
They wore the whatever you want to call it, burgundy, and gold, and the same field in the 70s. And you just had some tremendous players, particularly running backs for USC.
Mm-hmm.
Those games were just fantastic games. I'd always be there for that. Unfortunately, it doesn't even get the national TV anymore with the way the conferences have moved, which is kind of a shame. I mean, I think the thing to me is some of the big ones that are lost to me is a little bit troubling. Now we artificially have Colorado and Nebraska over Thanksgiving weekend. There's no rivalry there at all. That's just television blowing its big horn again. It was Nebraska and Oklahoma when they were both in the same conference years ago. The same with Texas and Texas A&M. I mean, now they're in different conferences. They don't play anymore. Those were fantastic games. There's a lot of hate on both sides, but a lot of respect at the same time. Mm-hmm. We don't see those games anymore, and that's a damn shame again because of money to me. And I think I couldn't agree with Chris more. I mean, I think the Pitt-Penn State during the period you described, Dave, was maybe one of the best rivalries, kind of like the Penguins and Flyers. Hockey here, from say 2008 till just a few years ago, there was a lot of distaste there, both sides of the fence. Not necessarily stuff for the distaste now, but that was one of the best rivalries in college football. But now, since it's so intermittent, and Pitt just hasn't been able to maintain. Pitt's had some good years, but they can't maintain the same level because they're not in the same power conference. The rivalry, to me, has lost a little bit of its luster being away from that area. I'm sure there it's still big, but the Pitt-West Virginia one, to me, is a huge loss. That is a huge loss because, I mean, I think whether it was basketball, we were in college, that was the biggest rivalry when Duquesne had those good teams. With WVU in basketball, there's a lot of animosity at Civic Arena or down in Morgantown when they played. Same thing in football. You just don't see it anymore. I know they're going to revive it, but it just seems a little artificial now, almost like pro sports. Well, we need to make some money. We got a hole in the schedule. Let's throw this in there now. Whereas before, the Michigan, Ohio State, a few of the others have maintained, that year after year after year with something on the line. And Army, Navy, same thing. I mean, there's something on the line there, whether it's the records or not. And I think all the other things that have happened now because of the money, because of the TV, because of these power conferences have really hurt it. I mean, even down in Florida, that triumvirate was a big deal there. The Florida State, Florida, Miami, Florida State, Miami. They can't play each other anymore. The schedule just isn't big enough in college football to do it anymore when you're in a conference and you got to play 8 conference games. So that's a big loss too, because down there, there was a lot of feeling, a lot of passion down there whenever I'd been down there about those rivalries. The people down there would probably agree with us and say it's a shame that they're kind of pretty much gone. They kind of they substitute for each other, but it's not every year anymore. So I don't really get some of the other ones like the South Carolina and Clemson. That's not a big game. I mean, that's not even that covered.
It's regional. You take the first few away. The rest of them are kind of regional. It's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong.
It is,
but it doesn't mean a lot. I mean, would you have taken the 2-for-1 deal to keep this series alive?
I would have in a minute.
I would have too, Dave. They should have. I mean, the money's important. I mean, I hate to say it. I would have taken it too, And I think it can be if they dump them once or twice, it can immensely help recruiting, particularly in Ohio and Eastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I I would agree.
It'd be tough to take both of them. In reality, when you have four, it'll be, I think, I want to say I heard somewhere the ACC is going, either the ACC or Big Ten are going to 9 games, so you only get 3 non-conference, so it'd be tough to keep both.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying about West Virginia. I would keep Penn State out of the two if it's me. What are your thoughts?
You say Pitt play West Virginia instead?
I'm saying I'd play Penn State over West Virginia if I had my choice of the two.
If you're Pitt?
I go the other way.
I would probably go the other way, I think. I think I'm with Fletch on this one, Dave. I think that, you know, that's a short 1-hour drive, and I think the way the economics are going in college sports, sadly, I think Pitt's going to have a tough time being as competitive there as they might be against West Virginia. I think I'd probably, for now, go with West Virginia.
The other part of it, I think part of Pitt's problem is they don't have a true rival. I mean, there's not that rivalry game to get the fan base excited. So without
basketball joining that conference,
guys, what do you got? You don't really have it yet. I mean, maybe one day one of those ACC teams will grow into a rival, but it's not
hard to say.
Unfortunately, until you get good in basketball and even football, I mean, it's tough to get a rival if they're not close. It's going to be tough to take one of those ACC teams and say, this is my rival, because basically you're looking at another bad team that you could say you have a good shot against.
Right.
It's improving, and the reason I claim Duquesne has a better chance to be more successful, even though they're not as good as Pitt technically, because the ACC is a tough basketball conference to get your way through.
Yep.
I still
think Pitt's got a lot of work to get some of those athletes that the ACC powers are going to continue to get from New York and Florida. But Pitt's going to have a hard time getting some of them for a little while, at least.
Until they start succeeding. But at least I believe they've played West Virginia fairly consistently in basketball. I know they've taken a year off here or there. Penn State's never going to be a basketball rival.
No.
So maybe you're right. Maybe it is West Virginia, because it seems like it's more a rival and more sports.
Well, I mean, if you want money, you choose Penn State. If you want intense rivalry, I think it's West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's the tough call that the Pitt administration has to make, and so do the other schools. So, West Virginia doesn't have a natural rivalry either joining that Big 12.
No. I mean, look how far they have to travel for their games now. It's crazy.
Texas, I mean, it's not good. So,
no, I mean, Penn State's the same way. I mean, you have Maryland, it's somewhat close.
But they don't belong there
either. With Rutgers if you want.
But not much, though. Not much of a program. Yeah. Yep.
But you're good. So when you're good, you get rivals of other good teams, because it's something where there's emotion on it, because it means something who wins the game. That's kind of the tough thing at Pitt's level in the ACC, both at this point. I mean, you won the Coastal last year, but what's the Coastal? In fact, take away 2 or 3 programs, the ACC is not exactly a top-notch football conference.
It is not. Nope.
It's one dominant 1 and 2 that can compete. That's really what it comes down to. Yep.
So basically, your ACC rival is Notre Dame, because you get them 2 out of 4 years or 2 out of 3 years, something like that.
Something like that.
Yep. It's on a rotation where they'll get them more often, but I mean, that's your ACC, unfortunately.
But guys, the more we talk about this, the more I'm mourn the loss of the Big East.
Yeah, for basketball. Yeah,
for basketball, the Big East tournament, was there anything better than that week of watching just the most intense back and forth basketball, brutal basketball sometimes, but damn, what colorful games they were.
Yeah, 20-some years. Yep.
It takes us to the selfishness, as we talked about, of Joe Pa last week when he tried to put together that All-Eastern Conference. I think that would have stuck if they did it. I don't think that would have broken up at all, because, you had a natural base. You had successful basketball programs in there, successful football programs. I don't think that would have broken up, and you would have had both Pitt and Penn State in a conference, which would have been incredible. And anytime you have Penn State, you're a Power 5 conference, or a Power 6 at that point, or whatever it would have been.
The other grouping I think that would have been interesting was when they talked about was the whole Catholic university leagues, where you would have DePaul, Marquette, Duquesne, all of those teams playing. Then maybe Duquesne would have actual rivals too. That would have been fun to see.
Oh, it would have been, and I personally think that's what we're playing for right now in this new regime. I think down the road, if we become successful consistently, I think the Big East opens up to Duquesne.
It might. I think it might. I mean, remember, Big East came to Duquesne first. Pitt was the second choice. Duquesne turned it down. Pitt took it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, when you think about that, I mean, that was a seismic miss.
Thank God we turned it down, or we'd be averaging about 3 wins a year.
Well, right. It would. Right. It might have been one exchange. We might have been booted. Right. We might have been out of that conference because of poor performance. But I think the administration we were there was so bad. Let's face it, they didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And on any regard. In any regard, with the alumni, with everything from the damn Bevomatic horrible food. It was a horrible place then. It was run terribly. And they had no clue. And Pitt,
we were there to brighten it up, weren't we?
We certainly were. I mean, look at the geniuses we all are and have become. But I mean, my point is Duquesne blew that. Pitt took advantage of it, and then look what's happened subsequently.
So your point was the world wouldn't have known about smegma if not for Chris Fletcher.
Fellas, I did find the April Fool's issue when I was doing a cleanup.
You sent me the picture.
Oh, my.
That was classic. But
here's the other thing about Duquesne. They finally built a basketball facility, and it's obsolete before it even opens. That was the killer right then and there.
It hurt. Yeah, it hurt. It did hurt, seriously. Yeah.
Although from what I see, we are going to have one first grade A class facility coming up.
Once you get the thing going, it's kind of hard to lose it unless you really F up.
Right.
So it's about time they're going all in. You know?
One thing I challenge you both to this year, we have 3 venues we're playing. La Roche gets the bad games. Robert Morris Center gets some decent non-conference games. PPG looks like they have all the A10 games.
The big names, the bigger names too, probably, yeah.
1 game at each facility.
Oh.
Huh?
I like it.
A little more challenging for me, but I'd like to try it. I can tell you.
Hey, that Robert Morris facility is going to be pretty spectacular. Apparently, Bob Dylan's going to be playing there.
Yes, I just saw that. So that'll be great. But that's the challenge. That's the Duquesne challenge.
I was wondering what they were going to do. So that's what they're going to do. La Roche.
Yeah, they have them at all 3 places. So
okay.
But, anyways, quickly, Pitt-Penn State this week as we go. I'm going to say Penn State 34, Pitt 20.
31-3 Pitt. No, Penn State, of course. Come on.
I was thinking more like a 37-14, stuff like that, Penn State. Close for a little while. It was a rivalry game, but Penn State wide margin.
Well, gentlemen, let's hope we're all wrong.
Yeah, let's hope we are.
You have a good night.
You too.
Remember, it's all about the toilet.